The Mahabharata is one of the great epics of the Vedic literature. It narrates the story of the Pandavas, the virtual sons of Pandu, and the Kauravas, the impious sons of Dhritarashtra. Pandu and Dhritarashtra were brothers, and thus the Pandavas and Kauravas were cousin brothers who grew together. However, ambition and intrigue divided the family. Pandu died when his sons were still young, but Dhritarashtra was blind both physically and spiritually, and thus unfit to rule. Yudhishthira, the older amongst the Pandava brothers, is the legitimate successor, but Duryodhana uses intrigue and dishonest means to usurp it. The Pandavas suffer many injustices and go through many difficulties, but eventually they have the chance of regaining their rightful share in the Kurukshetra war, a great battle that will decide the destiny of the planet. Arjuna is the most talented amongst the Pandava brothers in the military arts. Although the army of the Pandavas is small and they are about to face powerful generals like Bhishma and Drona, there is hope that Arjuna and his brother Bhima may surpass all obstacles. Just before the battle, both Arjuna and Duryodhana went to Dwaraka to ask Krishna's support. Krishna said he would remain neutral in the fight, but since both asked for assistance, he proposed that one could have the armies of Dwaraka, a sizable military force, and the other could have him as an advisor. Arjuna chose to have Krishna's company, while the cunning Duryodhana opted for the soldiers. Thus, the army of the Kauravas became a lot bigger, while Arjuna gained the invaluable advices of Krishna. While the battle is happening in Kurukshetra, the blind Dhritarashtra is in the palace. At those times, kings will join the battle and lead by example, but being blind, Dhritarashtra stayed behind. Anxious to learn about what was happening on the battlefield, he inquired to his personal assistant, Sanjaya. Sanjaya was a great mystic who had gained the power to see things at distance from Vyasadeva, his spiritual master. By this vision, he could see and perfectly describe to the blind king what was happening on the battlefield. Vyasadeva was also present, writing the verses of the Bhagavad Gita in palm leaves. These original teachings would be preserved by a succession of masters through the centuries, maintaining the message intact until our days. The Bhagavad Gita starts with a brief discussion between Duryodhana and Dronacharya, where the former describes briefly the assembled armies and tries to inspire the warriors on his side to fight to the best of their abilities. In his commentary, Srila Prabhupada describes the stories of many of the heroes whose names are mentioned. There are literally millions of warriors arranged on the battlefield, and everyone knows that many are going to lose their lives. The situation is tense. After the discourse of Duryodhana, Bhishma, the commander-in-chief of the Kaurava forces, blows his conch shell, followed by others. The optimistic atmosphere is however crushed when Krishna, Arjuna, and others blow their conch shells on the other side. Suddenly, the Kauravas realized Duryodhana's mistake. Even if Krishna would not interfere in the battle, how could they hope to defeat the army of the Pandavas while Krishna was there? Although Krishna promised to not interfere in the battle, he is the source of all auspiciousness. Therefore, good fortune would be on the side of the Pandavas. There are many instances in history when smaller armies would defeat bigger forces, and the soldiers on the Kaurava side were fearing that this could be another instance. On top of that, the battle would be fought in Kurukshetra, a holy place, and this could also be a factor in favor of the Pandavas, who were virtuous persons. When the battle is about to start, Arjuna asks Krishna, "O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here, who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." Incredible as it may seem, Krishna accepted the position of the charioteer of Arjuna, a subordinated position. This is in fact an indicative of his magnanimity. Someone who is not that great will fear losing his position or prestige, while someone who is really great will not have any problem in accepting a lower position to help a friend. Arjuna is Krishna's friend and he came to ask for his help. He chose Krishna's personal association over his armies. Therefore, Krishna reciprocated by becoming the charioteer of Arjuna, so he could guide his chariot and keep him out of danger. As Srila Prabhupada explains in his commentary, the relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord, and similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. He takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. Since he is the master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. After fulfilling Arjuna's order, Krishna says, "Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here." This is a very dramatic moment. Positioned between the two opposing armies, Arjuna can see everyone who came to fight. On the opposite side, he saw his cousin brothers, uncles like Salya and Sakuni, dear friends like Aswatthama, his martial teacher, Dronacharya, and even Bhishma, his grandfather. The Battle of Kurukshetra was a fratricidal war that put members of the same family against each other, and most of the family was in the other side, supporting Duryodhana. Arjuna was thus faced with a gruesome choice: battle his own relatives, risking killing his own kinsmen or being killed by them, or neglecting his sacred duty as a kshatriya, a sacred warrior, and live the rest of his life in shame. For a righteous and honored person like Arjuna, dishonor is worse than death. But how could he live after the death of his relatives? We can see that we face many problems in life, but rarely one will have to face such a dilemma as Arjuna. We frequently have to take difficult decisions, but it usually doesn't go to such an extreme. If after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was able to find a solution for the difficult situation he was in, certainly we also can. Arjuna felt a mixture of emotions that led to different symptoms he describes in verses 28 and 29. My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. My whole body is trembling, my head is standing on ends, my bow Gandiva is slipping from my hands, and my skin is burning. From there, Arjuna describes his reasons for considering not fighting the war. The first reason is compassion. Although a brave warrior, Arjuna was a pious and kind person. Therefore, he was feeling compassion for the soldiers on the other side and the perspective of they being injured or killed. The second is fear of personal loss. Even if they would win the battle, how they would be able to enjoy life afterwards without their friends and relatives? The third is the destruction of the family traditions. If all the men would die in the battle, what would happen with their families? Who will take care of the wives and educate the children? Families are the fabric of any civilized society, where moral and cultural values are transmitted to the next generation. The Vedic society of which Arjuna was part was a very sophisticated society based on solid moral principles. If the families would be destroyed, this culture would be lost and the society would enter into disarray, resulting in suffering for all. Arjuna was also fearing the karmic reactions of his acts. Certainly, to injure and kill people would result in an enormous negative karmic load, which would make him suffer later. What would be the benefit in gaining a kingdom if he would have to suffer for many lives afterwards? The fifth reason is indecision. Although before he was determined to fight for the just cause, now he became reluctant. evaluating if taking the evil Duryodhana out of power would be worth the lives of so many people. This is a situation we frequently face in life. The fear of loss makes us afraid of taking decisions, and thus fear paralyzes us. By the end of the first chapter, Arjuna was completely distressed. He spoke, "Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield." Having thus spoken, Arjuna cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down the chariot. His mind was overwhelmed with grief, and he was unsure of what to do next. This happened in the middle of both armies, so everyone could see that Arjuna, the great hero, was pondering if he would fight or not. The soldiers on the side of the Kauravas were certainly feeling a great relief with the perspective of not having to face such a powerful foe, while the soldiers on the side of the Pandavas were surely apprehensive with the possibility of losing his most capable commander. If Arjuna would leave, this would completely change the course of the battle. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita starts in the most crucial moment, when everyone is paying complete attention, anxious to see what is going to happen next. What would be a better opportunity to speak about self-realization? What would you do if you would be in Arjuna's place? What Krishna could speak to help him in his gruesome choice? See you in the next episode.